it's about, looking at what's already working in your life and what's already going well. So what strengths do you have? Where where is the joy already in your life? And how can we really amplify all of that?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Exploring You, our podcast to guide you through the personal development jungle and all things personal development and mental health. My name is Darren Siegenberg of the Mindcore CIC and Elysium NLP.
And I'm Alexandra Katzer, nature coach and forest bathing guide.
And we have a special guest today. Sorry, she's got in already. Get in there, Kelly. Get in there. She's excited. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kelly Phinn.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you doing? You're right.
Great. Sorry about the enthusiasm there. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Kelly. I'm a Kelly Phinn coaching. Yeah, and I'm a psychology coach.
A psychology coach.
So yeah, I'm a certified positive psychology coach. So I use the science of well-being as well as holistic modalities. I'm a holistic coach too, to really help people to thrive in their life and to cultivate more happiness and peace and good health so that they can thrive in all aspects of life, including their own life, their business, their careers. Yeah.
It sounds very, actually, you come across so bubbly and everything. It must be that cocktail you've got at the side of you. And you're obviously, well, I say obviously, we know it as obviously, you are Sean West's partner, who we've had on before. How's the dynamic between the two of you? I mean, obviously, Sean's come from 180, like myself, we've gone 180 degrees into something completely different. How is the dynamics between yourself and Sean? He does more coaching on the business side of things, doesn't he?
Yes. And I do think that works really well. We've been together a long time, and you know Sean's background as a security consultant, and he was in the military for many years, and he has had a life of being away. He's been in Afghanistan, different countries. He worked in London like all week. He would be away, and so and at the time I was working within the NHS, so I'm also a registered occupational therapist, and so I was in the NHS at the time. And our life back then was very much, you only know what you know at the time, but looking back, it was a very stressful way of being, and I think we made huge decisions just really over the past couple of years. And I mean, I guess we'll talk more into why these things have happened, but we've had life events happen, and then we've reevaluated everything and completely changed everything. So now Sean is based from home, which has been a huge transition because I've been used to Sean being away, and but actually I feel as if all the journey we've been on personally, both separately, has helped us to really unite together in the whole of our life, whether that's our relationship, whether it's the way we support each other with our mission and purpose. And we still have our ups and downs, as everyone does, but it's just, we feel like we're cultivating a life that is just more at ease, and we have our own independent sense of happiness, that we're not relying on each other, that we have our own purpose, and then when we come together, we're just allowing each other to just explore ourselves and what we want to do, and that's a really amazing thing that I never thought we'd get this after all of the years of stress.
It's great, isn't it? That, like you say, the stress of somebody being in the military to start with, the stress of then being somebody in that to some extent hostile environment in close protection, and the stress of being away from home, it does mount up, doesn't it, at the end of the day?
Yes, yes, and on so many levels that I feel for me having a much heightened awareness now of it isn't just a superficial kind of layer of stress. I think the stress ran very deep within both of us, and I think it's only knowing what we know now that we have different daily practices that we each do, just to continuously work on kind of rebalancing from the inside out, if that makes sense. So, really, and sometimes showing Rosie's eyes, that's the things that I might talk about, but it's really nurturing from the inside, and our health, um, having these just little daily rituals, and taking a pause in our hectic, schedules. But thankfully, we love what we do. So sometimes I think we're more driven to do more and more and more. And I'm usually the one in the background saying, right, we just need to pause here and take a moment, reflect, and just look at what we've achieved, whether it's over the course of that day or whether it's reflecting on, the last year. And I think because, like yourselves, we're so passionate about what we do, you can so very often lose kind of your own self-care in what we do because you're helping everyone. So yeah, it's just a little reminder that the stress that we carry is there at such a deep layer, often from so many things from our young past, so many things, even when you really, depend on what your beliefs are, your ancestors and all of that comes within yourselves at a really deep level. You're carrying an awful lot, and when you are getting kind of those emotional reactions that we often do in the day or in certain situations, it's about kind of having the awareness of where that's coming from and what that might be about. Yeah.
I think it sounds really beautiful, this balancing as well of masculine and feminine energy, with both of you, like supporting each other, giving yourself the freedom, but then also like coming back and encouraging each other to personally grow and develop further and build the business together. Like it's I think it's lovely, very great.
Thank you. It's a work in progress, as it always is. But I think what I really appreciate for me, it's about knowing what your strengths are, isn't it? And I have got much more in tune and aligned with what my strengths are. And I know there's a lot of the business side of things that I'm just not drawn to. It burns my energy. And I know Sean can help with certain things and vice versa. Hey, I'm the one keeping our health ticking over and supporting us to feel energized by the things that I do, for the family. And so I think we balance each other out in that way. It's about knowing what your strengths are and sharing those skills and strengths.
I like that. That's knowing your strengths, the balance. And I'm just thinking here, it's refreshing to have you on from another perspective. If I go back to like the military side of things, we talked a lot generally to people who are in the military, the guys and the women that have been and served, but it's different to get the perspective of somebody who's been at home with the family and the stress of somebody being away in a hostile environment. How did you manage to manage your stress levels through that period when he was away?
Again, I think it was, well, I've always used, and I think I am quite an optimistic, well, I am a very optimistic person. I think it's just within me, and I hadn't realized that until more recent times of how I bounce back from situations, is that I do have, whether I've inherited that or and so I think optimism and hope Like, and actually one of my top value in action strengths is hope. So I have a very strong sense of that. And when I look back at how I've coped with stress and certain issues, it's always been having an optimistic mindset for the future and hope for the future. Now, whether I've cultivated that or whether that's just something that's, you know, deep within me, a character strength, part of my personality, but also more recently, it's been taking time for me, like hugely has helped me to support everybody more by taking the time. I'm a real introvert and I just need to ground. I need to re-energize alone. And there's been times in my life where I've not had space for that. I'd say particularly when I worked in the NHS, I'd come out of that environment straight back into, you know, going to see parents and, you know, and then my little girl and all the things that I really value and appreciate, but I never took space because I didn't know what I needed, and now I do. So I think it's really having a real awareness of yourself and what you need. And when you have that, you can put things into practice each day. Like I have certain little rituals that are non-negotiable for me. And I feel my time expands when I do the things that make me happy because my energy is so much more positive and expansive. And I feel like I've just got more energy to do more and to serve more and to just be a better person all around, really.
Yeah.
Would you like to share some of the daily rituals that you practice?
Oh, yes, I have a few. Not always consistent. Part of the reason, I know people always talk about the consistency and it's so valuable, but you know, I am a mother and I don't want to be in friction thinking, oh, I just want this time and I don't want anyone to interrupt it. I've got to be open to things that are going to happen. I've got a very needy dog and all of that. So I do love meditation, but I'm not always consistent with the way that happens. And it depends on how I feel when I wake up in the morning. And I just know that, right, I might be okay to sit on and sit in stillness and silence today. But tomorrow that might not work. For whatever reason, I can't settle in and I can't just be, you know, in stillness. So I might do some movement meditation. Some mornings I'll just sit on the mat and I'll listen to some mantra chants that I just find the most uplifting. It's my go-to thing. And that's quite a new thing. And that's took me on a whole other level of happiness. Like literally my heart bursts with happiness when I just sit and listen to these chants, and then I understand where the whole history of that and what it symbolizes. So there is that. Sean thinks I'm pretty crazy some mornings when he comes down and I've got these chants blaring in the kitchen. I sometimes do some just movement, just a somatic movement just on my own and moving my body, and you know, the same move your body, move your mood. So I might do a bit of that. Sometimes I'll just sit and read. I'll just pick up the book that I'm reading and I'll just sit on the sofa with a cup of tea. And yeah, just I have lots of different things that are in my little toolkit that, depending on the mood I'm in and the vibe that I'm in, I'll just pick out and go, right, today I'll have a bit of that. And today, and breath work, that's an amazing thing that we all have available to us. That is free. It's the most powerful thing that I've ever experienced. And so I might just do a bit of breath work, and you can switch that up and do different ones so it doesn't get boring. And yeah, I think what I value most is that you don't need to go off somewhere necessarily and, go somewhere extravagant or whatever. We have so many resources within us that we can use for our well-being, and it's free. And once you learn things, it's pretty easy. Our bodies are there to support us. And if we know how to use this amazing tool in the right way, we can really empower ourselves. Yeah.
That's key, isn't it? Having a toolbox of stuff to be able to dip into. You don't have to, not everything might work. You don't have the time for something. I was reading one of your posts the other day about you drinking, is it cacao, the certain energy drink?
Yes.
How it uplifts your energy and stuff.
Yes, and that actually is quite a more recent thing, and that's something that I learned through my holistic modalities training. And again, it's more of what it symbolizes. So I'm not one for easily switching off, and it's part of the passion that I have for what I do. I'm constantly learning and reading and listening to podcasts and things like that, and I've learned that
I hope you're listening to the Exploring You, by the way. You better be listening to that one. Sorry, carry on.
And I've learned that sometimes in order to achieve more, you need to slow down, and we know the power of meditation and the science behind that. But I find just drinking this amazing, full-on antioxidant drink, knowing it's going to fill me with vitamins and minerals, but it's more of, and I mean, with NLP, just having these little these moments that you associate. And so for me, it symbolizes I'm going to prepare that drink. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to think about the history of this and, people who've used it in the past and what it represents. And then I'm just going to sit and I'm going to hold this warm cup and I'm just going to be. And it might just be for 5 minutes, but even if you slow down for 5 minutes, it's amazing what that does for your mind, body, and soul. So that's my little ritual that I've kind of just popped into my day, that I've actually got Sean trying this as well. And he's very open to it, so that's good. But it's a double whammy because it's one of those things, it's so simple, yet I'm getting so many benefits from one thing. And I think people need this because, we all are very busy and people are often put off from nurturing the well-being because they just think, I haven't got time. But if you can help people to realize that we have so much within us that we can just use at any moment, even taking a toilet break at work, you can go into the toilet and you can do some deep breaths. It doesn't have to be complicated. And that just these small, simple things, and if you can stack them and get so many benefits from one thing, then sometimes that's just all we need to feel, to uplift from that negative loop that we're often in. Busy, busy, busy. But one thing can really just take us to a more, positive frame of mind in that moment, which then leads on to interacting better with your colleagues or whatever it is. So yeah, that's definitely something that I'm doing each day, and because I'm drawn to it. And it's a discipline as well. I think when you promise yourself that you're going to do that one small thing and you stick to it, it is discipline. And then I feel like, I've achieved something too. It makes me feel good.
I also feel those mindful moments throughout the day. I totally agree. They are so important. And when I did this training to become a forest bathing guide, it's also a focus on these 5-minute sessions throughout the day, like sitting at your desk and watching out the window and just looking at the clouds and see them moving by, or listening to the birds. So connecting with nature, and it doesn't mean that you need any equipment or anything else. It's just like you said, it's all within you, and take time to pause. And I totally agree. It's so helpful and valuable to recharge your energy, to slow down or soften your nervous system, get it back in balance, and then you're energetic again to keep going with the task you have on hand. Totally.
It's amazing, and that's the other thing. It's nature, isn't it? That is, I mean, that's definitely my go-to as well. And we know within positive psychology that there's a Gordon and Bill's theory that will say that if you're feeling overwhelmed and overcome, that if you step into nature, the reason that's beneficial is that it literally broadens your perspective. It's like at a physiology level, it's creating changes in your brain. So you get a broadened shift, you have the feel-good chemicals flowing through, your eyes start to relax. So we might not know when we're in nature what is happening within ourselves. However, there is so much going on. And that's why you get that calm, because that's what nature is doing for us when we need it. And I find that fascinating, that, and it ultimately, that's what can give you that sense of awe and the joy, if you are open to, feeling what is on offer when you're just stepping out into a field and looking at trees and things like that. It's just amazing what nature is doing for us. And I think it's just having real gratitude. And I think, going back to your question before, Darren, about, how have I cope with stresses and things, I think a lot of it's optimism and hope and gratitude is a huge part of my life. And I do a thing that I learned through positive psychology, and it's called 3 good things. And I often will just share this with clients to, at the end of each day, just write 3 things that you are grateful for that happened in your day and the reason why. But it just has to be 1 sentence, so it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could just be, I am so grateful for the walk that I had with the dog this morning, because it made me feel so energized and happy afterwards. And as long as you're feeling into that and you really feel grateful for it, and what they say is that if you start your day with the intention of finding 3 good things to be grateful for, you start viewing your day through the lens of, I am going to find 3 things that I'm grateful for. So you start looking for the good things in your day, and you start looking for the goodness in your life, rather than feeling, that pressure and the overwhelm and the more negative thought. You're literally setting the intention of finding the goodness in your day. So that is why it works. So I do that, and I also do it with my little daughter, who is 8. So she now has this little practice. If we have a late at night, I haven't got time to write it, we might just talk about it. And so that's something that people find really helps them to get into the practice of feeling gratitude. And then it just starts to really come at a really deep level once you kind of, again, start thinking through seeing through a different lens in the way you function each day. Because it doesn't matter what situation we're in, I believe that there is always something that we can feel grateful for in that moment. There is always something or someone. And if we can start to think about that one little thing, and someone once said to me, it's impossible to feel grateful and negative at the same time. And so when I sat with that, I thought, and I realized that is true. You cannot be both at the same time.
Brilliant.
I just want to share something with you when you just said you can't be grateful and negative at the same time. And I always also like when you just start smiling and smile so hard that your eyes are squinting from the smiling. And when you do it, you literally start like laughing. You know, there is this
Yeah.
happiness bubbling up, and I find it so intriguing, you know, like it's such a simple technique to do throughout the day when you feel stressed or overwhelmed, to just pause and smile and see and observe what it does with your body and your whole well-being, you know.
Absolutely. And I feel that now, you know, having these conversations, I can feel a real authentic happiness inside of me, because I just love this so much. And so I feel like I get off these calls, sometimes my cheeks are hurting because I'm like, because this is how I like to spend my day. This is like meaningful to me. And this is everything that I've been, you know, doing over the past few years. You know, this is where I've wanted to be. And then when I realized, you know, I'm here now and I'm talking to amazing people and about amazing things, I feel really grateful for it. And I can't help but smile.
Glad somebody's smiling then. That's all right. Yeah, it was interesting when you were talking about something came to mind. I'm very much into Japanese culture, the original, you know, the old style. And I was watching Shogun, the new series the other day, and a guy was making tea for his wife. And I know a lot of the stuff that the Japanese back in the day, everything was an art, even making a cup of tea, you know.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for it, and I know some of the ritual, and I'm like, is she going to turn the cup? Is she going to turn the cup? And he'd made the tea, and he gave her the cup, and she did. She turned it twice. So, and that's the traditional way of how they made the tea. And it's when you're talking there, it reminded me that even just making a brew, how we make an effort to do it, realizing how, you know, the flow of water, the heat, everything. When you look at the Japanese culture, it's like listening to the rain on the leaves, listening to the rocks grow. I mean, any other normal person would go, how can you listen to a rock grow? But it's about taking the time to stop, readjust, and immerse yourself in everything that's around you, because everything then, all the negativity goes away. It doesn't it? It's being in the moment of
Yeah.
everything that takes all that energy, that negative energy away, and appreciating everything that we have and what we do. Again, is what we're grateful for. I'm grateful I can make a cup of tea. There's not a lot of people who can. You know, you struggle to go out and you know, you sat on the streets trying to get a pound to go to the cafe. You know, so it's appreciating every tiny thing that we do. And when we do that, that negative energy kind of whittles away, doesn't it, at the end of the day?
And I just love what you've said there, because I feel in the world that we're living, that, you know, we know is so fast paced, and it's just getting, on one side, getting faster and faster and faster. But then we do have a lot of the well-being, thankfully, being recognised. And I think, you know, I really believe there will be a big shift, because we cannot go on like as we are. And I think that it's the instant gratification that we have now, that everything is just immediately done for you, and it's there. You can press a button and you've got whatever you need. And it takes all that mindfulness away that you just described about a ritual of making something that years and years ago that would have been really sacred, and they would just literally be sitting, and that would be a real blessing. Um, and I think that it carry on with how life is right now, and the heaviness that it feels for a lot of people, we're losing all of those amazing mindful moments and qualities. Um, and it's, I mean, I cannot get any pleasure from anything that is just with me in an instant. That doesn't make me feel happy at all. I get more pleasure and happiness from things that I work towards, and that I have to kind of set a goal for. And that's what gives me the happiness in my life now. You know, not the thought of just pressing a button and some, yes, I mean, there are things in life that are I welcome a lot that make my life easier. But generally, I like the thought that goes into things, like whether it's food, like I do prepare all of my own food, fresh, and you know, I've got a really strong why for that. I've had some real health issues in the past, and the thing that got me through that really difficult, well, many years, was nutrition, and then other things like managing stress and what have you. And I think I've got a very strong why in order to do all of that. So it's ingrained in me, and I get up every morning and I'll happily prepare some vegetables and things like that because I know that that is in me being healthy. Um, a lot of other people haven't had the reason, or they haven't had the, you know, the really maybe that real challenge, or they're not aware of what some of maybe, I mean, I'm talking about food here, but they're not aware yet because sometimes things come in the future, you know, the more in ill health or the depression and things. Because so the instant gratification of I'm just going to eat this now and eat that, and it's not harming me. I don't think people realise what maybe we're storing up for the future, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. Um, so if we go back to what you said about just thinking, I really appreciate where this has come from. I really appreciate who has helped get this to me today, and really think through. It really takes on another level of thinking, gratitude.
Yeah, I think we're having a little bit of internet issues, but
Yeah.
no worries. We'll carry on. When we talk about tipping point, so the little changes that we make, I mean, when you think about where you've come from, what was it you did in the NHS, by the way?
So I was a paediatric occupational therapist.
Okay.
So yeah, I for many years, so it enabling people who were struggling with certain functional issues and disabilities, and helping them to be more independent, and enable them to access, you know, in daily life that was a barrier for them, and that's what I did for many years. Yeah.
So what was the tipping point for you to go into coaching?
Oh, so there was quite a few things that I think happened in terms of um I was I've had an illness called inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis for many years. I was diagnosed when I was about 26, I think, so like 20 years now. Um, I was told when I was first diagnosed a long time ago that it was very serious at the time. Like I was hospitalized for 2 weeks in the beginning, and um, put on so many drugs, steroids, and so many concoctions. And I was told that I'd need medication for the rest of my life, really. And kind of I just accepted it because back then, you know, I was told a certain thing by a consultant who was very within the medical model. And so I just accepted that that was my destiny. And it took me a long time to accept it, but I just kind of learned to. And then the stresses over the years and, you know, different life events, I found that I was having flare ups, and then things would settle. And I always connected the flare ups to stressful events. And so then I started to think, well, there's definitely a correlation here between what's happening and then the reaction that my body's kind of having, and my mind as well. Because whenever I had some physical symptoms, I'd get really stressed, like because I'd worry about the future. I'd worry about Because at one point, and this was only 4 years ago, I was told that I probably need to have my whole bowel removed, and because it was so flared and really serious. And at that point, I just said, right, no, no, that is just not going to be my destiny. And I was on a really potent drug at the time, which I have to say has helped me to get out of a really sticky situation. So I'm very thankful. But it was very toxic. And so that at that point, I just said that I can't live like this. I had a daughter as well, and I knew there was another way, but I knew it was going to be a real journey to get there. In the middle of all of that, my mum was diagnosed with cancer. My dad had had major heart surgery, so we thought we nearly lost him, and he survived, thankfully. My mum passed away. We had COVID, and so all of that was happening. There was just so many things. Oh, and we'd moved into this house that was an absolute site. And I mean, we had no hot water. It was just, Sean was actually shoveling coal from the outside bunker to heat the bath.
Wow.
It couldn't get any worse. And you know, and I was feeling really quite ill, and gosh, when I think about it. So I remember when I left the hospital, I just lost my mum, and I came home. I'd slept there overnight, and I had all the builders here, and they were digging up all the outside. I could barely get to the front door, and I remember feeling a lightness, weird, just one of those moments. And I thought, gosh, like all I can see is there's light. There is just some light here. And I know everything's really heavy and it's really difficult, but I know it's going to be okay. Like I just knew. And so I think I just went on this complete kind of well-being journey because of all the things that had piled up and pushed me in the right direction, I believe. So leaning into nutrition, looking at sleep, getting better sleep, bringing in some self-care things. Amid the chaos, I just found a way to do it. And because I'm so interested in people connection, I knew that I had so much more to give there too. That was quite restricted in the role that I had. And so there was also part of me very frustrated. And I think that was part of the stress in my body that was also bringing on these physical symptoms, because I just had this knowing that I knew there was something amazing ahead, but I needed to be brave enough to take the steps and pull myself out of, untangle from all of these things. So I just slowly, just every day took some steps. I tried not to put pressure on myself. And then I found my health. Suddenly something just changed. And then I've managed to be off all medication. I mean, I wouldn't say to people, anyone listening, that they can just do that. I would always say, if you want to try it, just have your medication as a cushion while you're putting in all the practices and the nutrition and things. But there is a way. And so that's happened for me. I no longer take medication for inflammatory bowel disease. And with that, I've got a clearer head, because I think the medication was giving me a lot of brain fog, not giving me confidence hugely. I didn't even feel like I had a voice. Like I couldn't even keep up. And I'm sorry, I've never stopped you today, but everything, everything was suppressed. And then when one thing shifted, everything started to shift. And then it's just been the last couple of years, I think, probably the hardest yet the best years that I've ever experienced.
And that's the whole point about the tipping point, is the small changes over time. You don't have to do everything all at once. You feel that pressure, don't you, initially? I need to change. I need to have something. I need to make some amendments. And you kind of go through your head that you're going to change everything all at once, and you can't do that. What you can do is the very small steps. Like you said, you're still taking the drugs, but you're making small changes, and each time that's a gradual thing. It is a process, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I was recently with Sean, actually. We went to see Steve Bartlett doing a talk around life and business. And one of the first things he said was, I mean, we all know how successful he is. It is the small, minute things that you do and promise to yourself, like the self-commitments that you promise yourself each day, that make the biggest impact. So he wasn't saying go out and do massive things and take massive action, tiny, tiny, tiny. And that's what he's learned from speaking to all of these people and doing all of this stuff in his business. That it's the small self-promises that you make yourself are what count and what make the difference.
I was working for a particular company, and there was something came up about, it was all about safety behaviors and people changing to become more safety conscious when being on a bus or on public transport. And the staff went through, there was it's a massive company, and the staff did a 2-day training course on safety, being safe, safety behaviors. And the senior leadership team seems to think that everybody can change in 2 days. And I was talking to a friend, and she said, yeah, it takes 21 days to change a behavior. And even that made me think, no, that doesn't even sound right. And a lot of the no disrespect to them, a lot of the professionals who took behavior and motivational speakers talk about this 21-day change. So looking into it, I found that back in the early 30s or something, 20s, there was a guy called Maxwell Maltz who did a lot of, he worked as a prosthetic limb surgeon, and he said on average it takes 21 days to get accustomed to a particular body part. And it's obviously carried on from there. And in early 2000s, Philippa Lally did a session, she took on this as well, and did an experiment and took up about 96 people to do and change their habits. And so they had a choice of like having water with your food or having fruit after dinner, or so anything they did, but they had to do it on a regular basis. And what she found was it's anything between 19 and 66 days to change that habit, and you have to do it every day at the same time and every day as you go along. But it's that little change then gets you into it. So it is a constant thing, but it's not going to happen overnight. It could happen quite quickly. It depends on the person. But to say that it takes 21 days isn't actually true. It takes time and commitment to be able to do that.
It does, and that really could really deter a lot of people from, carrying on when they're challenged by change, thinking that they have this parameter that they have to adhere to, because it's very individual as well. We are all so unique and different preferences, and I think it's just about one day, something doesn't in your favor or fulfill your promise to yourself, then just accept where you're at, and there could be something going on for you that day, and then just try again tomorrow and accept that we're going to have ups and downs. We're never going to just flow perfectly, happily every day. We're not meant to do that. But I think there are some things, if you can really just keep that little promise, and not make things too difficult. I mean, you've probably read Atomic Habits, which, that there's some amazing like little nuggets of advice in that. And he'll speak about just the small consistent change. And So yeah, it's just taking the pressure off because we're under enough pressure. And then
Yeah.
if we're, you know, really tough on ourselves, it's not an incentive to keep trying, is it really?
Yeah. It just, if you want to change, you've got to put the effort in. And I think that's one of the key messages, isn't it, Alexandra, that we've seen over the years when we've done this, and even doing the podcast, is that people need to make an effort. You know, as a coach, we see so many different people, and that's key. What you said, Kelly, is that everyone's an individual. Everyone has their own little traits. Everyone has their own little behaviors and attitudes towards things. One thing we're finding, I think, these days is that, I don't know how it is with your clients, but a lot of people are not putting the effort in to make that change, that positive change. I mean, how do you see with your clients?
I think it's such a huge area and for so many reasons. So yeah, I think this thing about there's a pressure as well to conform and to almost fit in and do what everyone else is doing. So you might have the best intentions to want to change. But if you're continuing to be maybe around people who aren't on that same path, and if you're not resilient enough to really own who you are and where you want to go, you can so easily be knocked off course. And so it's about really standing in your power, isn't it, when you want to make change and building that grit, building the resilience. Accountability is an amazing, through coaching is amazing. So, having someone that's going to help guide you, support you, and keep you accountable through what is a challenging process, because coaching is the most amazing thing. And when you get that coaching's changed, I was coached, it changed so much. And sorry, I did even forget to say that in part of the journey. I was coached too. And but I was so ready. I was so ready for it. And so I knew that I promised I'd waited for the right time because I was ready. And then I did everything. It meant everything to me. I knew what I wanted. And I just wanted that person alongside me, just keeping me accountable, checking in. And I got to where I wanted to be. But you have to be ready. And you also have to really build that. We all have self-doubt. We all have, the imposter syndrome swirling around somewhere. But we just have to ride that roller coaster. And we have to just know where we want to go. And be really certain. And I've had so many little comments about, what are you doing, this and that, and I love that. I actually love it when I get these comments about maybe how weird I'm being or whatever, because I just think I'm on the right path then. Because I don't want to conform. I don't want to live the life that I used to live. It wasn't making me happy. I wasn't fulfilled. I was stressed. I was ill. And now I feel amazing. So I know I'm on the right path. It's not for everyone, but it's my path. And I think that you just have to really know why the change is important. So we do something amazing in positive psychology coaching, and it's around a hope map. So it's creating your goals, and it's really attaching a really strong why to those goals. So thinking, deeper than yourself, who else is going to benefit, in terms of maybe family members, but also the greater good of the world. If you're really on a path of meaning and purpose, who else, who are you going to serve? What's your legacy going to be, and what you want to create? And that can, when you really dig into that can be really powerful when a person realizes, I've got all these strengths, and I can really make an impact on the world just by being me, with a, you know, a more supercharged self-esteem. And, you know, and you cultivate a lot of confidence, don't you, when you're being coached. Um, and so the Hope Map's amazing for that. And then you kind of, you know, you're looking for the pathways to the goal and any obstacles, and creating new pathways to overcome any obstacles that you identify. And you're also looking for the support you might need to achieve your goals. So it could be people, but it's also your daily practices. I mean, my practices are what support me. So I never just rely on people in my business to help, but I rely on nature. I rely on amazing nutrition. You know, I couldn't do all the things I'm doing in my life right now if it wasn't for the energy that I'm getting from, you know, all hydration, and I kind of prioritize sleep. I barely drink alcohol now, maybe a glass of wine a week. You know, I've made compromises, but it's so fulfilling that I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. So the whole map process really helped me to really dig into, what do I really want and what do I not want anymore. And often the change happens by saying no to a lot of things in your life. And I've learned to say no to quite a lot of stuff. And that is true empowerment. I believe, I feel so strengthened by knowing what brings me joy and where I want to go with that, and what depletes the parts of me and my energy. And I'm just going to say no to that because it doesn't align with me anymore. So yeah, I think most people really want to change some aspect of their life, but change isn't easy. It's very fulfilling when you get there, but it isn't easy. But it's not meant to be easy, because if you enjoy what you're doing along the way, that is your growth. That is all of your learning. That's what you're going to pass on to your children. That's what's going to be your legacy and what you create in the world. That's your story. You know, that becomes who you are, and then that becomes the stories that you tell. It's your mindset, isn't it? It's like how you think of these things, because we can all look at one thing in different ways. And I just don't like to say that any opportunity or anything we do is wasted, because there is some value in everything that we do.
I'm also curious to know, how did you come across positive psychology, and what made you realize, or why did you feel drawn to it?
So I was coached myself. I was in an amazing coaching group with some amazing women, and that was really the catalyst for change for me. And I remember meeting another lady in the group, and she always had a really uplifting energy that I knew was there in me somewhere, but I'd just lost that. And again, it's going back to all the things that had piled onto me in life over the years. And I knew deep down I had a connection with that really uplifting energy that she was, you know, giving, that vibe, you know, someone's vibe. And I just thought, I know I've got that, but I've just lost it. And then I thought, just to ask her some questions about, you know, what did you do? What are you doing? And then she told me about this amazing, like, kind of coaching program she'd been on. And it was the positive psychology coaching with an amazing Nick Pigeon, she's called, and that's who I've trained with. And I knew instantly, in that second, that was where I was going next. Like, I just knew. And it was almost as if everything that I'd been working towards landed right there. in that moment, because as soon as I got off that call, I was just straight into, what's this about? And it all just fell into place. So I just didn't even hesitate, and I just went straight into it. And it has hugely changed my perspective. Because it's really important to say here, actually, that positive psychology, it's about, and the coaching that I do, it's about, looking at what's already working in your life and what's already going well. So what strengths do you have? Where is the joy already in your life? And how can we really amplify all of that to create more and more and more? But it's not about being happy all of the time. And it's about really being aware of all of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and learning to be at ease with all parts of ourselves. And then when I trained around holistic modalities, that took me to a more deeper understanding of, really being so much more open to possibilities of support, in terms of even the universal support that we have around us, instead of just looking at the things in front of us. It's like, what else do we have here in this world to support us? And hence why I love the mantra chanting, because when we sit in this group, which I never thought in a million years I would ever do. I'm not a singer, I'm not in anything like that, but this little group that I do once a month, I am with people who I don't really know very well. It's run by this amazing lady, and we just sing these beautiful uplifting songs together. And so the history of that is that in communities where there was real connection back in the day, and people would say, I mean, you're going back 2,500 years ago, so this is how strong this philosophy is. And that, because as humans, we are always drawn to the more negative, and we are always, I mean, when we wake up in the morning, our raised adrenaline and our raised we're always on alert, and we kind of wake up that way. And it's our job to get ourselves into a more positive frame of mind in the morning, which is why morning routines are so good. But in this group, it teaches you that you could come into it feeling in your negative loop, bringing all of your day with you. But when you chant together, you're almost like leaning into the more divine world that we belong to. And so you're chanting to something much higher than yourself. So you get out of your own head. You just become more peaceful, because you are really thinking about something so much bigger and higher than yourself. And it's a real kind of just get rid of that ego, let it go, and just be. And when you sing together, you just literally go into this most positive feeling that I can't even describe. Like, I have to say it to people, and I would say to anyone who's having some trauma and a really difficult time, my advice would be to try something like this. Honestly, I think no matter what situation you've ever been in, I think no matter where you're at in terms of your mental health, that things like this are just, I feel like if everyone was open to trying something like this, it would definitely make the world feel like an easier place. So sorry, I've digressed on that question. I just wanted to feel that I got all the resources to feel good and to feel happy in this life that I have, because life's so precious, and I don't want to go through it constantly feeling stressed and negative. And I want to be able to show Lucy that no matter what she goes through in life, that we all have different experiences, but we've all got different strengths and resources. but to not, beat ourselves up for having parts of ourselves that we maybe don't like all of the time. We all have our shadow selves and parts of us that, when guilt comes out and some of these more negative or judgment of others, we've all kind of got aspects of that. And it's accepting that, that is okay as long as we're aware and we're able to move in to a different energy and a different mindset. And it's not staying in these things for very long, because the longer you stay in that negative loop, the harder it is to come out. So yeah, I was just drawn. It's just, I think it's just been meant to be honest.
I love the enthusiasm there. I'm just listening to your voice. It's just the enthusiasm that comes out. And, and I thought before when you said about life is a roller coaster, but do you know what? Even a roller coaster has to stop. We are going through all these changes and all these different things that go on in our life, but it might seem a bit rough ride, and your loops, your turns and this, but it comes to an end at some point. And it's us that have to stop that roller coaster in a sense. We don't have somebody with a switch, but we can change that only through from ourselves, and that's what coaching gives us, is that it doesn't tell us what to do, but it finds that innate energy that we've got that can change us, because only we know ourselves at the end of the day, to be able to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, that we all have everything we need to know and do. It's all within us. It's just having that person to guide you, to ask the right questions. And I find with the coaching that I do, what I've started to do more is, as well as obviously the talking, the coaching, to use some of the holistic modalities with the client, because sometimes they're so exhausted, maybe through talking, depending on what sort of day they've had, that like just some breath work can help release a lot of their thoughts, and they can, go through some breath work and then suddenly an idea will pop up, or they'll feel inspired, or they'll feel more energized. So I just find having that balance of things, because we're so much more than just cognition and speech. We're so much more than that. So yeah, it's just being able to kind of judge and use your intuition as to who the person is and what they really need, because they might not know themselves what what they need, but intuitively, I think as a coach, you kind of start to really learn about someone the more you're listening to them, listening to the story. And so I'm always looking for those cues, and I do that all the time in NLP. And then it's just like, oh, might just put this and see how, what they think this, or I may suggest this or whatever. And yeah, and I think all of that just comes with experience, being around a whole range of different people and seeing people's uniqueness as well. I think that's what I love most about the job that I have, is that you just get to meet most amazing, interesting people. You have the same thing a lot of the time. I mean, similar themes come up, just lack of confidence and imposter syndrome, you know, just feeling like they just don't have enough energy to serve everybody in their life. And you get the common themes, but also in what we want to do and what we want to achieve. And I just love that about people. And I think that's helped me to be open as a person. People are telling you everything about them, and I really respect that. And so that's helped me to be more open myself. I mean, a long time ago, anything, I would never really want to be vulnerable. But I'm happy to go now.
Awesome. Alexandra, anything?
No, not for now. I love this conversation.
And I know, and I'm just conscious of the time, and I mean, us, this is why we do these podcasts, is to see the energy and the enthusiasm from other coaches and other modalities, in a sense of what can actually help people with their personal development. And it is, we just get immersed in this, and I think that we could be here all day, all week. Kelly, thanks so much for being on the show. I'm going to give you now the floor. It's your 5 minutes of fame. Sell yourself. It's all yours. Get your clients in. We don't charge any commission, so don't worry about that. But 5 minutes of fame, it's yours.
So much. It's been such a pleasure. And yeah, thank you for everyone that's listening. And I must tell you that in my coaching, I don't just talk, I do listen. Yeah, so basically, I'm a certified positive psychology coach, and I support people with that and with holistic modalities. And I probably more specialize around health and mindset and creating amazing energy so that you can, elevate your own health, and you'll learn so much about yourself that you never knew was even there on this amazing well-being journey. And I believe that when you have your health and your happiness and your inner peace, that you have everything. And that is your solid foundation to then create anything that you desire. So when I coach people, they can come with any goal in mind. And the modality that I use can then help that person to create any goal that they have, because ultimately it is, working on your mindset and putting all of these well-being tools into your toolkit so that you learn to cultivate and create your best possible life. And I think we're all worthy of that. And when you're operating from a much more calmer, happier way of being, then you're going to connect better with people. Your relationships are going to be better. You're going to make more money, because happy people make more money, and we know that through the research. You're going to create your own legacy. So many amazing things can shift and happen by just going on a well-being journey and investing in yourself. And I think by investing in some coaching, not only to get accountability and you learn amazing things, but it's the start of putting yourself at the center of your own life. And I think when you begin to do that, you are in the best possible position to help everybody around you, whether you're a leader at work, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a parent, partner, whatever it is. When you learn to give back to yourself, you learn in a much more open-hearted way to give back to others and the world. So
beautiful.
I must remember to smile when I'm doing the lottery ticket on Saturday. Then that make me, if I'm happy, I'll get the money.
Yay!
Oh, it's great. The energy today, I think it's been a fantastic show today, and I hope everybody else agrees with that. It's great to see you. And finally meet you. And like I say, I've known Sean for a few years now, but it's great to see you as well. And I can see the dynamics with the two of you now. I was thinking when I know Sean, and I mean, like me, we've gone that opposite direction to something completely different from what we've done, and then to know there's two in the same house, You know, it's quite it can be quite challenging because, like you say, you'll probably look at you and go, really. But I had the same thing, you know, when I was doing this, is actually taking on NLP and coaching. So it's great to see you and that, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Could I just add one last thing? Sorry, because I always forget to do this. Can I just give my Instagram or LinkedIn, because I just always forget on. So I'm Kelly Phinn Coaching on Instagram, Kelly Phinn with a Phinn, and LinkedIn, I'm on there as Kelly Phinn. Yeah, and I have a website, kellyphinn.com, www.kellyphinn.com. Thank you.
Great.
It's all right. There will be an invoice for that as well. Yeah, finder's fee and everything else. Yeah. God, the nerve. We bring her on the show and then she starts plugging her business. The nerve. Talking of giving money, we like to have donations for our GoFundMe page, an easy fundraising page for the Mindcore. Any donations are grateful for our retreat and training centre for men and veterans with mental health. I'd like to thank our supporters as usual: Promo Doodle, the Professional Bodyguard Association, the Burnley and District Motorcycle Club, and Mira Gavaccio, freelance visual designer. Thanks again to host and Alexandra for all the work that she does in the background, because I'm absolutely useless with technology, as always. Alexandra, anything from you to finalize?
No, just give us a like, a comment, a share. We really appreciate it. And thanks, Kelly, for being our guest today. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.